Welcome back, everyone, to the W Sports Podcast. Take two. Yes, it's so cold in Kansas City right now. It literally killed our power. So it is back on, and we are ready to go for our special bonus podcast episode where we are going to go ahead and give you all the picks for this week's NFL Super Wild Card weekend. Tubby, Jimothy, we're bringing it to you. We're ready to go. I hope you all are ready. Tubby, welcome back to the show. Take two.
Take two. I'm ready. I'm ready to talk some playoff football. It's a great time of the year. Get some great postseason football. Hopefully.
I 100% agree. And actually, on YouTube today, I watched a video someone put together. It did a really good job, and it was like the greatest postseason in NFL history, and it was 2003. You may remember that as the year. The Packers had a pretty epic game. The Seahawks want the ball. We're going to go score, and they didn't. Al Harris did.
Yeah.
But all that being said, it's playoff season. We're very excited about it. So when it comes to playoff football, one of the cool things is the weather is always absolutely brutal, and it is going to be terrible, absolutely terrible weather tomorrow night for the game, Kansas City and the Dolphins. It's a night game. Miami could have been playing in Miami had they won last week in 60-degree weather. Sure, it would have been a little bit rainy, but who cares when it's not -4 with a wind chill close to -30. That's going to be gross.
Yeah, that's not going to be fun for anyone.
Yeah. So that brings me, Tubby, my question to you is how cold is too cold? If you got free tickets to the Chiefs game tomorrow, how cold would be too cold?
I mean, that's pushing it. There's like said, there's difference between like up north cold and down, south like that humid like just wet cold. That negative whatever is pushing it because I've fished up north in negative 18 degrees. I was in shorts fishing off. Yeah. So there's just that difference with that wet cold. That might be pushing it, but at least hey, you're gonna have everyone else around you, so it does kind of insulate you a little bit more than normal. But yeah, that's pretty cold.
Yeah, it is going to be disgusting. So before we got on this first call for this here, I actually took a phone call from a friend of mine, and yeah, he had tickets to the game. And you know what I said? Man, it's just too cold. I don't think I could do that.
No,
I said
really?
no to a playoff game because it's going to be, dude. I know you thinking I'm crazy, but it is going to be too cold. It's going to be too
That's
cold.
you just layer up. You get hand warmers. What you do is you get the feet warmers. They stick to you, and you just put them all over your body.
I like that. Get a heated jacket. I'm going to go make a pretty good investment. Tickets, I've never seen tickets for a Chiefs game this cheap as they are right now. And it's because it is absolutely going to be disgusting. Now, here's the thing. I had one of my really good friends here. He actually went to the game on Christmas Day. Was it Christmas? Yeah, it was Christmas Day or New Year's Eve. That's what it was. And it was cold, and hand warmers couldn't do it. 6 of them couldn't get warm. And now we found out this last week that if you bring a piece of cardboard and you stand on it, it'll actually keep your feet warmer. It'll insulate you from the concrete ground. And I think that's genius because my feet always freeze. But I will remind you, I watched OU in Lawrence this year, and it was like 37, 38 and rainy, and I could not get warm. It was so cold after 4 hours. And now you're telling me it's potentially going to be like close to 50 to 60 degrees, feels like temperature colder. I don't know, man. I don't know, man. It's also going to be a late game. I got to get up really early the next day for work. So
That's true.
I'm going to regret this decision. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, especially if it's like one of the like most epic playoff games. Like it's a replay of
13 seconds.
13 seconds. Bills, Chiefs. Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's a dumb decision, and people may say that I'm not a real fan, but I just want to be a warm fan right now. Okay, I want to freeze. Man. So I was grateful for the offer. I just didn't expect it, but man, it's going to be cold. So
yeah.
Anyway, we're going to get into it. We're going to go over the predictions for each of these games, like I said before, and we are going to get into maybe a little bit of the breakdown of the college football championship. And I know many of y'all are here today at the W Sports Podcast. You're wondering, what is Tubby thinking about Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, all the different coaching hires that have happened in the last week? And yes, we will get to that. Not in this bonus episode. Stick with us. We'll be back at it again in next week's episode, so you don't want to miss it. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you download the podcast where it is and share it with someone else, because Tubby's bringing it every single week, and I'm trying to do my best to keep up with him because Tubby, I mean, for the record, y'all, look at this. This guy's all clean cut now. He's got the hair cut. He's got the beard all trimmed down. I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah, we clean. We're clean cut, clean shaved.
Clean cut.
Yeah,
It's all for the playoffs. Some people grow their beard out. Tubby's already done
yeah,
that. So
yeah. I cut the
but
hair off for luck.
for luck. Oh, okay, we'll see what happens for the Packers. We're going to get to that pick here in a minute. So we're going to start with
Yeah.
the very first game. It is tomorrow. It is Texans hosting the Cleveland Browns, which is crazy because the Cleveland did have the better record, 11-6 versus 10-7. C.J. Stroud led the league in touchdown to interception ratio, which is pretty good despite missing some of those games. And right now, I don't know who. I didn't see who's predicted. Over under has Cleveland winning this despite being on the road. So, Tubby, who do you got in this game and why?
Man, I think this game's going to be interesting.
Mhm.
You got a couple guys that could potentially not be playing for the Browns. Denzel Ward hurt his knee during practice. He's kind of up in the air whether or not he's going to play. I'm going to go with the young quarterback. And I know it's crazy to say in a playoff game, but I don't know. I feel like everyone's underestimating them. And I mean, Stroud was on Pat McAfee show like right before the national championship. Stephen A. Smith comes off, and Stephen A. Smith said, "Oh, they have absolutely no shot. Young quarterback has no shot." And C.J. Stroud, you can tell that meant something to him when he's like, "Okay, I hear you." I'm like, "Okay, let's go." So I'm gonna go with them just because it's the Browns. The Browns are gonna find some way to lose just because that's that organization.
Listen to the storyline. The Browns, they look like. I mean, they start off really well overall. Their defense has been great, and then into the season, they storm into the playoffs with a much better offense with Joe Flacco, only to rest him in the final week of the season to make sure he's healthy, and then to also include his bonus a little bit. His incentives a little bit different because he's on the roster versus inactive. Only to lose against the Texans in the wild card against a rookie quarterback. That sounds like the most Cleveland Browns thing ever. I'm going to agree with you mostly because this is in Houston. Weather will not be a factor. This offense and the way CJ Stroud has led this team, if he doesn't get hurt, they should win this game. And I do say that knowing that the Cleveland's defense is really good. But like you said, a little bit banged up. I think Houston should be able to do this. I need to be writing this stuff down so we can keep track of our record as we go. But I think it's going to be. I think it should be a really good kickoff to the playoffs having that. So make sure if you are, go ahead and throw any predictions you have in the chat, so that way we can go ahead and grab those two and make those known. I mean, who you guys got?
Yeah.
So yeah, should be a close game though, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be a good, interesting game. And like you said, Stroud, he's the first rookie ever to lead the NFL in touchdown to interception ratio. He's the leader this year. And we've seen Joe Flacco, who is a guy that, since he's been starting, has 8 interceptions already, and he's only started, a handful of games. So we know he's going to push the ball. And that secondary, Derek Stingley, is turned into a really good pick now, where you're looking at the third pick in the draft, picked right before Sauce, and everyone's like, oh man, they're going to regret that. And now he's starting to kind of round into that player. So I think that may be something. A late interception by Joe Flacco, and Texans win the game.
Yeah, ultimate Brown season. But they are favored for the first time in a game since 1994, which is absolutely crazy. But hey, here we are.
Wild.
It's been a weird year.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead. We're going to move on to the next game. We got Kansas City hosting, the Miami Dolphins. Looking forward to the absolutely brutal weather game. Right now, Kansas City is favored by 3.5 at home. Miami is, but both of these teams are, I think, 3-2 in their last couple of games, and have not been on all cylinders. Chiefs pretty much for the whole year, and the Dolphins since earlier in the year, midway through the year. Again, game time temp right now is set to be -3 with wind chills 20 degrees cooler than that at least. Night game on Peacock, so hopefully you all have a subscription.
Yeah.
But who you got in this game?
So if I remember the stat right, the Dolphins are when they play in the last 11 games, when they play below 40 degrees, they're 0-11.
Oh gosh.
Give me the Chiefs. I'm never going to count out Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo when it comes to playoff time. We did that people did that last year. We did not. People last year did that whenever he got hurt
all year long.
And they play a different type of football when it comes to playoff time, and I think that's what we can expect. And Dolphins, man, their edge rushers. You're coming in with it with Emmanuel Ogba, Justin Houston, Melvin Ingram, and some other dude that they signed off someone's practice squad this week because your top two edge rushers and Phillips and Chubb are out. Xavier Howard's out. You've got some banged up guys on that defensive side. I think Chiefs are going to take advantage of it. May not be a high scoring game, but I think they're going to ride Isaiah Pacheco tomorrow.
Yeah, I do think so too. Pacheco, as long as he doesn't get hurt, I think that is. I mean, if he does, then you get CEH, and it's a whole different ballgame, a whole different type of running back. I think Pacheco is literally going to be out there sleepless. He's going to be ready to go and just run the ball as many times. And again, both of these quarterbacks are typically some of you consider them top 10 in the NFL, right? Tua and Pat Mahomes, and Pat Mahomes with one leg. I got to go with Pat Mahomes, who has a defense. I mean, this reminds me similar to, I mean, not similar, but like the Patriots early on in their dynasty, they had those years where the defense absolutely carried them. This has been the best defense Patrick Mahomes has seen. And they're at home. I think the NFL, if they could re-script this, if they could, they would have had the Dolphins not get this seed because this would be a better matchup further down the line. Maybe in Miami if they had the 2 seed versus what they're getting now, because it's not going to be I don't expect it to be the electric matchup with wind and with the cold. So give me the Chiefs. This is, by the way, tied for the second lowest over-under in this game. Again, the NFL did not script this way.
No, this was not what they were expecting. Yeah, at the beginning of the year, we're like, ooh, we could potentially have the Dolphins-Chiefs playoff game. Let's go. Right? Oh, wait, never mind. It's going to be, -20 with the windshield. Darn.
Yeah. So, going to be absolutely brutal. I can't wait to watch from afar a little bit here, unfortunately. I know. But I'm going to be ripping this new Chiefs hat because
I like it.
We got to. Yeah, it's another gift on Christmas from a friend of mine, man. He's got hat game, so he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Like
all right. We'll move on to the next game. This is another weather-related game. We got Bills versus the Steelers. Bills hosting. It looks like there's a chance of snow. It's going to be the 20s, so classic Buffalo weather here in January. And the Steelers are going to have Mason Rudolph start. I think that's a really big key here. Who would have thought at the beginning of the year this is what it would be? Buffalo is favored by nearly 10 points in this game. So here's my thing: are we trusting the Bills now?
Man, this is one of those games where I've been shaky on, because last year we thought the same thing with the Bengals coming into Buffalo. Snowy weather, bad weather, and that a banged up offensive line for the Bengals and giving up sack after sack, and the Bills are kind of coming in on a hot streak. You struggle a little bit that week before with the Dolphins, but I just don't know if I can trust Mason Rudolph. That's the biggest problem. And the weather shouldn't be so much of a factor because Pittsburgh played in pretty bad weather, snowy. So I don't know if it comes into effect so much. I'm going to go with the Bills, and I think it's going to be a really close game. I think the 9.5, if I'm a betting person, I'm taking the Steelers 9.5 and making some money because, I think they can cover that with ease. The defense is playing really sound right now. But I just feel like Rudolph's going to do something, maybe inexperience going into the playoffs. I think he's going to do something to cause them to lose that game.
Yeah, the hard part for me is TJ Watt. I don't know that. I don't think he's playing, but even if he did, he's definitely wouldn't have been at 100%. And I think that is going to be a big part of it. The other side of it, when we talk about Mason Rudolph, this is a backup quarterback in the NFL, and so how much do you trust that on the road in the playoffs? Looking at Josh Allen, his last 3 months. Do you know what his touchdowns to interception splits are? Like on the year, he's at 29 and 18. Obviously, a ton of interceptions.
Yeah, I mean, I know he had 4 turnovers in that. He had how many turnovers last week? Yeah. So I don't know exactly. I'm just gonna say he has 6 interceptions.
12 touchdowns in the last 3 months. Excuse me. So, I'm gonna say 3 count. November, December, January. So far, he only one game in January, but he wasn't quite specific enough. 12 touchdowns throwing the ball, and then he has 10 interceptions. So we're not getting peak Josh Allen right now, but Josh Allen does something pretty special, and that extending plays. So as long as he doesn't make the really 3 costly mistakes, I think he can get away on this game with 1 or 2. But if you start getting up there with 3, because you look at this, they did finally realize that, hey, if you give Cook the ball, we can see some stuff happen. But Cook hasn't found the way to find the end zone yet. He's not an end zone
Yeah.
back. Most
Mhm.
of that has been Josh Allen. So I
Yeah.
think that's it. I'm going to pick the Buffalo to win this game. I think it is going to be closer, maybe a
Mhm.
10-point game. So maybe they do cover, but I think it's going to be close.
Yeah, I think so too.
So, all right, let's. Man, I feel bad because we're already hitting your Packers here, like right now.
I mean,
But we got the Dallas Cowboys hosting the Packers. Packers were able to storm it. We said they'd win 3 in a row. They didn't quite, but they did make the playoffs. Dallas is favored by a whole touchdown, 7 points. It's going to be in Dallas, so weather's not a factor here. So
yeah.
that's the question. Who you got?
I mean, the last 2 times they have played in the postseason, we've seen some wild endings. You know, the catch was it a catch? Wasn't a catch? Des Bryant, Lambeau Field.
Mhm.
Then fast forward a few years, Aaron Rodgers makes this incredible throw to Jared Cook on the sideline, line up Mason Crosby, final field goal. I think the last 14 times they played, the Packers are 13-1 versus the Cowboys. Give me the Packers. Give me Jordan Love.
Let's go.
The Cowboys will find a way to cowboy in the playoffs, blow it because of some missed clock management by Mike McCarthy, and he'll get canned after the game.
Could you imagine that happening after this? After this season, the way they've seen the offense, typically be a old school Packer type offense here. You're looking at, Dak Prescott. He's had a pretty good second half to the season where he had a rocky October, but 16-1 in November, and then since then he's at 10-3. So he's still not turning the ball over a whole lot. I think that's going to be tough. Looking at what this will be like for them. The biggest thing is the Packers, if they can just keep it close, that's typically, Dak has good numbers across the board, but if they can keep it close, I think they can have a shot. But I'm going to take Dallas, unfortunately, in this one, only because the Packers defense hasn't been the strongest this year, and it's at home for Dallas. I think we both want to pick the Packers. I love that you went ahead and went with it.
I said, why not? I think, the Packers defense hasn't been the strong suit, but really their biggest weakness is the run game, and the Cowboys haven't run the ball a whole lot. And Jair sprains his ankle yesterday in some freak accident during practice, but it sounds like he's still going to play. And so at least have him out there, covering CeeDee Lamb. But like I said, they haven't used Pollard enough. And if they do use him in this game, I think they have a much better chance at winning because the Packers are like second to worst in run defense in the NFL. But there's always, it's just something about the Cowboys when it comes playoff time since 95, 96, you can't count on them in the playoffs. They have the second worst playoff record in football since they last won a Super Bowl. And the only team that has a worse one is the Detroit Lions.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so
I'm just going to go with what history said the last 14 meetings, last couple postseason meetings. And part of it's just, I'm a biased Packers fan.
Yeah, for sure. And you should be, as you should be. In the game, A.J. Dillon is not playing, but Aaron Jones will, and that might be the key for the Packers to keep this game within one possession.
Watson.
And Christian Watson. The receiving group has come a long way for this team, so limit the turnovers, run the ball effectively. It's a pretty normal script for that, but Packers have a shot if they can keep it within one score. I think that'd be the huge part. So, so far that's the only pick we've been different on, right?
Yeah. Hey, we had to have some difference.
We did, and I think this game might be one of those two. As we get to the night game for Sunday, is going to be the Detroit Lions hosting a playoff game against the Los Angeles Rams. This game right now, Detroit is favored by 3, which is the typical home field advantage that they do in Vegas. So this is also one of the highest over-unders that we have this game. I didn't mention this. The Bills-Pittsburgh, the over-under is 33.5. It's by far the lowest on here. Wow. Absolutely crazy. They are thinking the Chiefs are going to score 10 more points in that game.
I guess they're expecting that snow to be a big factor because it sounds like there's going to be a lot of lake effect snow in that game, and because they were talking like the Steelers had to come in early because all transportation may have just been maybe down on Saturday.
Yeah, which would be crazy.
So,
love lake effect snow. That's why I'm glad the Bills' new stadium will be outdoors.
Yeah.
Great call. So we got Detroit at home hosting the Rams. Again, like this is the highest expected scoring game in this round. So who do you have, Tuffy?
So we got Matthew Stafford going back to Detroit. You got Jared Goff facing off against his, former coach team, traded him off.
Mm-hmm.
The Lions defenses look so bad last 5-6 weeks. I'm gonna take the Rams. I'm gonna take Stafford. I'm gonna say Nakua. I think Kupp are just gonna be too much for that secondary that has struggled so much recently, and Matthew Stafford's gonna come in and dash any hopes Detroit had, especially after they announced that if you show up to the game in a Matthew Stafford Detroit jersey, you'll be asked to take it off.
Wow, I feel like that's too far. I don't think you should be doing that. But I guess I get it maybe. But the one good thing for Matthew Stafford is he's been pretty good on the road as far as completion percentage has been better. His touchdown interception is the only ratio that's not better, but even his yards per attempt is better. He has done a good job on that. Even in close games right now, that's what they can't like. They have to be up by at least a touchdown and plus 8 points. And that's when you've seen Stafford play at his absolute best. And he's got great receivers. So the defense is going to struggle. They've got Kyron Williams, who's really shown up, especially in the second half of this season. I think they're going to keep this game close. It's tough to say this. I'm going to pick Detroit, and I can't believe I'm picking Detroit. Maybe there's some old love there for the Lions in me that is just saying you got to go with the Lions. But I also like the brand of football that they play in the playoff time. I think they can win. So if they can at least maintain the defensive pressure, Aiden Hutchinson have a decent game, something like that, where they get 1 or 2 turnovers and they win the line of scrimmage on offense, which Dan Campbell wants to. That's his game plan the whole time is going to be to go after and establish their own game. And they have 2 good backs. So if one of them's really struggling, you can have Gibbs come in and do that. So I'm picking the Lions. It's probably the least confident I am in all of my picks. Like it's like a 51-49 thing.
Yeah, that's one of those games where, I think the first part of these games are really kind of toss-ups because there's so many different factors playing into this week, except for maybe the Bills-Steelers game may not be so much of a toss-up because of,
quarterback play.
Yeah, quarterback play. But, this is one of those ones, where I think you could flip a coin and whoever it lands on, you're probably, okay, yep, let's go with that one.
Yeah. Oh, man. I think at the beginning of the year, we would have said the Lions probably had a shot. I don't remember what we said for sure, but had a shot to make the playoffs. The Rams probably had a shot to make the playoffs, but both of them did. I think if you look across the board, we probably didn't pick the Steelers to make the playoffs. The Texans, probably not the Browns. Oh, you didn't pick the Texans?
Steelers.
You picked the Steelers. Right. See, that's just wisdom on your part because they never finished below 500, so in theory they should be able to make it. But so far, the field has been set pretty almost to what the expectations were with a few surprises here or there. I don't think any of us had the Lions winning the division because I had any of us over here, like the general public, because I had the stupid Vikings whose quarterback went down for the rest of us.
Yeah, you have an excuse there. I picked the Bengals to win the Super Bowl.
That's true.
Burrow goes down, so it gives you a good excuse.
I'll take it. All right, so the final game that we had this matchup this weekend is going to be Tampa Bay hosting the Super Bowl runner-ups last year, the Eagles, who are much like the Chiefs, not coming in super hot right now. Philadelphia is favored, though, on the road. This game looks like it could be rainy, but it should be, other than that, just in the 60s. So Florida football in January. Who do you got winning this game, Baker or Jalen?
This one's different because I don't know if you saw the reports. Jalen Hurts, since he injured his finger, has, as of yesterday, hadn't attempted a pass at all during the game, during practice, anything. That's on his throwing hand. That's a big deal for them. I'm going to go with Baker. I think Baker has the magic. I think this team for the Eagles is just absolutely stumbling, don't know what to do. Their defense looks atrocious. You're losing bad to bad teams. You lose to the Cardinals, you lost to the Giants. Yeah, you pulled your starters partway through, but you're getting curb stomped from the get-go. You lost to Drew Lock in the Seattle Seahawks. You're just not even stumbling. You're rolling like a boulder down a hill into the playoffs and hoping that you can find some way to stop and just get back on level playing field. And I don't know if that's the case. I think Baker's going to have this team ready to go. They played bad last week against Carolina
They did.
Panthers.
Yeah.
Baker's limping into it too, but I think that dog in Baker's going to get these guys ready to go. And I don't like what's going on in Philadelphia. You're talking about firing your head coach if you lose this game,
which is
after
dumb.
you just lost the Super Bowl the year before, is absolutely insane. So I think there's a lot more going on behind doors than what's been let out, because AJ Brown doesn't seem happy. No one seems happy within that organization. So yeah, give me the Bucks. I think it's too much of a dumpster fire right now in Philly.
It's absolutely crazy to think that at this point we'd be talking about Philadelphia like that. AJ Brown, by the way, also not 100%. He's listed as questionable for this game. He's probably going to play, but plenty of issues there to be considered. On the road, Jalen Hurts has not been good this year. His yards per attempt is 1.2 less, and that's been a huge thing for me this year to kind of hone in on. Double the amount of interceptions with almost half the amount of touchdowns. It's just been night and day difference, and he's gotten worse as the season's gone on. Since October, every one of his numbers has trickled down, and part of that is health. Part of that is just that's also what we've seen from this team, who at one point looked invincible. So if they can piece it together, they will, but they're not hot right now, and I don't expect it. Baker Mayfield, on the other hand, he has been much better on the road, for the record, but every single month he has gotten better, and hopefully January keeps that. So my pick, I'm picking Oklahoma to win this game. An Oklahoma quarterback to win this game. Baker Mayfield. Give me Tampa Bay in this one at home. I think it's going to be a pretty close game, but they seem to have found out what they want to do in the run game too in Tampa Bay, and so I can't believe we're picking this. I mean, let's go Baker. Come on now.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the outsides. You've got Mike Evans, you got Chris Godwin, you've got a secondary that's played so bad this year in Darius Slay and James Bradbury. Mike Evans can go out there, and I think he's gonna have one of those typical Mike Evans games where it's like 8 catches, 153 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the Eagles aren't gonna know what hit him right off the bat, and they're just gonna fumble like they have, get punched in the mouth, and they don't respond. I think that's what's gonna happen. There just seems something is way off in Philadelphia right now.
Yeah, well, and firing their coach is an absolutely dumb decision. But let's just pause for a second. And Baker Mayfield has been in the playoffs once before in 2020. His number is 4 touchdowns to 1 pick, and his QBR was 71. So at least in his experience so far, the dude has come ready to play in those games. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
playoff Baker, let's go.
Beat your arch rival Steelers. I mean, the first time the Browns have done that in how long? So yeah.
And they're like, we got to move on.
Yeah, to Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I mean Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I feel pretty good about those picks, and so we have just a little bit of time left in this bonus episode today, so we're gonna hit the Wolverines are national champions. I mean, it's the first time since I think 2000. 2000, is that right? Or 97, something like that.
97
that they have won it all. This has been a program that has been absolutely built back up. I'm going to say almost from the ground. They've taken their bruises, they've healed, they've gotten stronger, they've gotten better. This game, I mean, give me your high level. What did you see in this game?
The defense was absolutely suffocating. Yes. You may not look at it by numbers like that. They got to, they only sacked Penix once, but man, Penix got beat up. That offensive line for Washington failed. Mm-hmm. That defensive line, whatever Jesse Minter had lined up for that game,
did not work.
No, Jesse Minter's defense coordinator. He executed to a T, restricted the downfield throws like they did with Alabama. They hit a couple, big ones, and then they had a couple taken away from some questionable calls, but for the most part, that defense was just so suffocating to probably the best offense in college football this year with what they have on that side. So, yeah, Jesse Minter, Jim Harbaugh, they executed their game plan to a T, and they absolutely deserved it. I mean, every single aspect of that game they controlled.
Yeah, Michael Penix, it seemed like every single throw. Yeah, he only got sacked once, like you said, but he got hit a lot more. But he was falling away off his back foot, and it showed. I mean, he was out of sync. I was surprised that they didn't run the ball more. I know the game was out of hand, but this was one thing that Washington did, despite the fact that they're, it wasn't always getting, 6, 7, 8 yards a pop. They were still making the defense stay honest. And this team, I mean, they only ran the ball, what was that, like 15 times compared to 51 passes. And you get
Yeah.
so one-dimensional against a defense that is that good, even especially in the secondary, of what
Yeah.
they did. Washington looked outmatched, but I think this was just, hey, Michigan proved that they were the most complete, the best team. And I think if it all played out again and you had Georgia, Ohio State, you had Oregon and these teams, there's a
Mhm.
good chance Michigan still comes out on top because they proved it. I will say, JJ McCarthy proved he's not an NFL quarterback. Like, he is not an
No.
NFL quarterback at this stage. He should definitely be headed back. I
Yeah.
don't think I've heard any rumors of him leaving, but some people thought that maybe he would. He is not an NFL quarterback right now.
Yeah, no, he's not ready for the next level because he hasn't really proven that he's ready for this level. Yeah, he didn't turn the ball over, and he hasn't really turned the ball over lately, which is great because he shows that he's not pressing. But man, that guy hasn't showed me anything that he can be a legit, go-to guy when it needs it the most. He can get you those yards, get you that touchdown. Hasn't showed that to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, he definitely needs to come back. But whether or not he will, coming off national championship, yeah, people telling him, "Oh, you're going to be a first-round pick." I think he should come back. Hopefully, he does for him, and maybe he'll be able to set him up better for his future if it comes to the NFL.
Yeah. One of the guys who I almost considered to be an X factor in this game was Donovan Edwards, and I didn't because he had been an absolute ghost town
Yeah.
recently.
Mhm.
Explodes for the first two scores that they had, just big runs, and I think that's when it was like, okay, if he's able to get the ball rolling, I mean, they're going to be able to win. So, any of the biggest X factors that you truly saw outside of you mentioned the defensive play calling was there, the defensive line constantly just putting Penix under duress. Anything else that really stood out to you? I mean, I mentioned him right now, but anything else?
I mean, it really was just the offensive game plan for Michigan. We saw what happened in the Texas Washington game where Texas was able to run the ball pretty much at will. A couple turnovers hurt them,
Hmm.
their chances at winning that game, but that's exactly what Michigan does best. They lean on that offensive line, that big physical offensive line, and get Corum and Blake and Donovan Edwards going.
Hmm.
And Blake Corum just had a typical Blake Corum game. Averaged 6 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns, 138 yards. It was, I think, the culmination of his career in that one game. It's something that we see from him. He's not the most flashy, most whatever type runner, but he knows how to wait for his blocks, and he did that. And they really played the game that they needed to. Had some timely throws when they needed to, like they typically do. Hit Roman Wilson over the middle, whatever. And it was just, I just think the coaching just absolutely all the way around executed everything they needed, and that was the X factor. I mean, I love Kalen DeBoer. I think he's an incredible coach, and going to Alabama
Yeah.
now, yeah. But I just he was outmatched when it came coaching. Jim Harbaugh, Jesse Minter, Sharon Moore, they absolutely nailed the nail on the head,
Hmm.
just right where they needed to when it came to game plan and executed exactly how they wanted to. They didn't get sped up. They didn't get out of sync like, you try to do. They played their game plan and it, executed to a T, and that's why they're the national champions right
Yeah.
now.
I really loved this game. I mean, the fact that it was Michigan went 1 for 10 on third downs and 0 for 1 on fourth downs. If you
Yeah.
would have told me that, I would have said, hey, it looks like they didn't win that game. But the big runs that they had and also
Mm-hmm.
the turnovers in the fourth quarter were ultimately what separated them, because without those big runs, it's 13 to 20. And
Yeah.
how much different that game. And Washington had the ball more. They did turn
Mm-hmm.
the ball over twice, and I mean, just little things like that created, a game that it was much closer than the score necessarily indicated. But
Yeah.
it wasn't that Michigan never didn't have. I mean, they always had control of this game the
Yeah.
whole time. So it was
Yeah.
closer than what it indicated, but they had control the whole time, and they were in the driver's seat. So, um,
Yeah, I think another thing, like you mentioned, third downs. I mean, at one point, Michael Penix was 4 for 5 with 45 yards, I think, on third down, and they were 1 for 7.
yeah, yeah, that's
That
terrible.
they were so far behind the sticks all game because that defensive line
Hmm.
was putting so much pressure, tackles for loss, stuff like that. It was a big X factor that I think we didn't. I didn't expect the offense line to be able to control the game like they did against Alabama, like like they did against
Hmm.
Washington because of Washington having the Joe Moore award-winning offensive line, and they completely controlled that game.
Yeah, I mean, hats off to Michigan. Finally got the
Yeah.
win. It was really good. And you mentioned the new head coach over at Alabama, and we're going to get to more news like that. All the craziness that it was with the NFL coaching at the end of the season, and of course, the college football world that still is happening, and it just keeps going. And there's going to be some transfer portal information with that too, so we'll keep an eye on all that. But this was your bonus episode for the NFL wildcard weekend, so we wanted to make sure we get you all this information because it's here now and we're excited about it. So hopefully tomorrow you stay warm, you stay inside, and you enjoy some really great games. And hopefully the Chiefs take home the W. And before we get into our next podcast episode, hopefully the Packers, they take home the W as well. That's what would make a great weekend.
Yeah, that would be a great weekend for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, we appreciate you all jumping in, diving into this episode. Make sure you subscribe, you follow the show, you share it with someone new, review us if you haven't already. Whatever that is, make sure that you continue to join us every single week as we are just a great sports podcast. We just want to be there, and hopefully you listened, hopefully you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
See ya.